selection, a sales strategy for new and rebid municipal hauling opportunities to ensure growth, retention, and quality revenue in the area. She conducts education to cities throughout North Texas. She's extremely familiar with Grapevine, and she is has a wealth of knowledge and is anxious to answer your questions once she finishes her presentation. So if you guys just give her some time, kind of maybe make notes about questions, and she's going to field those when she's finished. So thanks for coming, you guys. Jeri, I'll give you the floor.
So thank you very much for giving up your evening to come out and hear a little bit more about recycling. I was here a couple of years ago. How many of you were here and heard me say that recycling had crashed? It still crashed. It did get a little bit better there for a short period of time. Commodities came up. We saw for a few months last year where commodities went to an all-time high, which is always interesting on how that works. Now commodities are going back down, and I've got some data to share with you on that. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm very informal. She made me sound really important at Republic Services, and really and truly my job is to make sure that our customers, which are in our franchise cities, are getting educated on recycling, landfills, what to get rid of, and to make sure that I provide the best customer service possible. So educating people on recycling is a large part of what I do, just because it is so important to me, because I am a consumer. I do recycle and have a lot of things to get rid of. So, would you be surprised to know that the sweater that I'm wearing is 100% made from recycled bottles? Isn't that pretty cool? And it doesn't itch. It's very soft. And it's, so that's kind of, and it didn't cost 10 times the amount of money that a normal sweater like this would cost. It was $34. So I bought this one off of our company store, but I'll share with you the brand. So more and more, what you're going to see is lots of things that are made from recycled plastic and bamboo, oddly enough, bamboo, and lots of those things. And people have finally gotten to where they know how to process it and how to make things out of it, and at a reasonable cost. So prior to this position, I worked in printing and promotional products, and Allied Waste was actually one of my largest customers, and they always wanted me to find them recycled products. So I would do that, and I would give them the price for a recycled ruler that was, 6 inches long, and it was 5 times the amount that they could get one that wasn't recycled. So the economics were not there at that time, but the economics have gotten a lot better. And I'm proud to say that a lot of the things that you will see today and start seeing in the stores, you'll start noticing that kind of stuff. And so it's one of the things. I recently took a trip to Scotland, and I was amazed at the number of stores that they had, that everything in the store was recycled, grown, or rebuy. And I really and truly, I was very amazed by that. And so my mom was with me, and she kept looking at me like I was crazy, because I was going into all these stores and I'm feeling everything. So everything that I brought back as gifts, except for one keychain, what came from recycling, plastic bottles or cardboard or something. Everything I brought back was recycled. So everybody thought that was really interesting, because when I would give them this beautiful scarf that was very, very put together very, very well and not overly expensive, and it was so soft, they were shocked to hear. So the reason I pulled the sweater out of the closet was for you guys to see that. So the last time I was here, China had closed their doors. Their doors are still closed. There's still a lot of shipping containers out in the middle of the ocean that they haven't gotten back to the rightful owners yet. And there have been other countries that have stepped up, somewhat. But we still have recycling around the country in every nook and cranny, storing it until there is a so-called market for it. So that comes with grocery bags and things like that. So I want to share with you a couple of things about how you can actually recycle plastic. And it'll kind of, and by the way, I did print all of my stuff out because I couldn't get it all in one file, but I use this all the time, so it's not like gonna go into the recycling when I leave here. So just so you know, I'm in the reuse phase of my life these days. And so I get my presentations and I've got them in folders, and then I can just pull them out and go where I need to go. So, not everything that's made from plastic can be recycled, as we talked about the last time I was here. Is it empty, clean, and dry? We talked about that, and that's still my stance today, empty, clean, and dry. Plastic bottles, jars, jugs are great candidates for recycling, but we have to make sure that they're empty, clean, and dry. That does not mean that you have to put everything in the dishwasher or stand at your kitchen sink and wash it until it's empty. Sometimes you have to make a decision. Is it the value of the water, or is it worth recycling? So sometimes you have to think about that. A bottle of ketchup that is not empty will ruin an entire load of recycling, as we talked about before. The other thing that you have to think about is does it pass the poke test? So a lot of people think that all of those plastic bags that you're taking back to the stores, that those are all getting recycled. It's the exact same thing as it is at our facility. If you can poke your finger through it, or as soon as you put your groceries in it and you go like that and everything falls out of the bottom of it, it's probably lived its life. And so that stuff, so you want to make sure that it passes the poke test. I'm going to give you some good news in just a few minutes about the bags. You'll be amazed to know. But I still recommend using shopping bags that you can reuse, because A, you know the strength of those, and you're not going to drop your groceries between the door and your car, and you get to continually reuse those. And they're great beach bags. They're great for everything, right? So I always recommend that you do that. The other big thing that we ask is that it not be bagged. And I get a lot of questions about what happens if it is bagged. Well, the good news is if we can catch it on the conveyor before it makes it to the machines, then we bust it open and everything in it can be processed if it can be recycled. The bad news is if we can't catch it on the conveyor, then it goes into the landfill. So do not ever bag your recycling. So you're going to ask me about shredded paper. You can shred your paper. That's a great thing to do. But put it in a paper bag, not a plastic bag. Even a bag that you buy at the grocery store that costs you 5 times more than a garbage bag because it says recycled on it, we still cannot recycle that. So it's still a plastic film, and today it can't go into your curbside program. So paper bags, reusable bags, that's what we're looking for when you're dealing with plastics. So let's talk about bottled water. That's a big one. Everybody likes bottled water. Well, not at my house. I don't like bottled water. I like to get the water out of my refrigerator and put it in my reusable cup. There's a lot of reasons for that. First, I like my reusable cups because they don't make a mess and they don't crunch, and there's lots of reasons. But the ratio of water bottles recycled by consumers, 1 in 4 is getting recycled. Bottled water costs more than gasoline per gallon. Did you realize that? So if you think about it, it's a little crazy, right? 20,000 in 1 second, number of plastic bottles purchased every second. There are 20,000 purchased every second. Amount of time it takes for a water bottle to decompose, 500 years. But, you know, you start with a virgin material, and as you continue to recycle it, it loses its life at some point. It's one of those things that you can only do it so many times until the material cannot actually be recycled. So you have to think about that. When water bottles first came out, they were, hard like a Coke bottle, and now it's almost like if you touch it, it starts crunching, and my granddaughters like to go like that, spray the water everywhere and make a big mess that I have to clean up, and it drives me insane. So that's the reason why I prefer to use my refrigerator with its filter and put it in a reusable cup. And I'm starting to train my granddaughters that way as well. We do provide bottled water for all of our drivers and our helpers that are going out on their route. But we also provide jugs for them at the beginning of the summer that are they're specific to them, so that we're cutting down on the number of water bottles that we are putting out as well. So let's talk about aluminum cans and whether or not they're really efficient. So back in the day, I could save up all my aluminum cans and I could take a bag and I could get $50. Well, now if you get 5, you're pretty lucky, right? But we know that it's being recycled. That's the same for us. But the good news about aluminum cans, they can be recycled forever, over and over and over. They don't lose their lifespan like plastic bottles do. 5 million tons are recycled annually of aluminum. 5 million tons, that's a lot. Just imagine what I could get if I collected all of those. And it also, that's 14,000 kilowatt hours of electricity for 1 ton of recycled aluminum. That's what's saved. So that's pretty good. So aluminum is good, but they don't put aluminum, they don't put water in aluminum bottles unless it's a flavored water, a sparkle. But you want to drink all the sparkled water and recycle that is those are always going to be recycled. Let's see. We want everybody to resolve to be a better recycler. Know what to throw. There's a lot of people that don't like that, but if you're standing at your recycle bin, I'm not asking you to Google it or stand there and go, should I? Always, when in doubt, throw it out. Because you don't want to contaminate the entire load, right? Nobody wants to do that. So, when you really and truly are thinking about your recycling and what you want to do, make sure you're not bagging it, empty, clean, and dry, and then know what to throw. Those are all my mantras for, keeping everybody on the up and up. We talked about how to recycle. Anybody know what pre-cycling is? That's a new one, isn't it? Y'all thought I was gonna come in here with the same old thing that I always talk about. So I actually learned something about 6 months ago about pre-cycling. If recycling had a best friend, it would be pre-cycling. Pre-cycling is about reducing your impact on what goes into the waste stream by purchasing and using items that are unpackaged, reusable, or recycled. So, think about the last few Amazon orders you've gotten, cause I know you're all closet Amazon orders. For the first time ever, I was in a conference call, that bad place, on Monday, and I'm thinking, man, I need to go to the grocery store today, and I had a council meeting that night, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the call, and I thought, Amazon. So I sat there on my conference call and did my Amazon, and the question and I asked the question, how do you bag it? And it came in paper sacks, and they were thick paper sacks. I was actually very impressed. So now I don't have to go to the grocery store anymore, and I can do it on Mondays when I'm on all my conference calls. But if you think about Amazon and the big changes that they've made, very rarely do you get a plastic bag, bubble wrap, plastic container from them now. It's they've gotten really good with the paper and putting the lining inside the paper that can be recycled, and then of course the boxes. The one thing that they haven't figured out how to get rid of yet is the filler that they put in there so that the items in the box don't slide around. But you know, the kids love that because they can jump up on it and it flows and makes everybody happy. But they have made a commitment by 2025 to have that out of their packaging. So they must be coming up with something really, really good. And I think that's a good thing for all of us. So on your pre-cycling, so you have to think about it. When you're getting ready to leave the house, and I'm one of those really, really bad people, but I have to stop and get a Coke every time I leave my house. It doesn't matter if I just left an hour ago, I still have to stop. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't drink Coke at all if I just stayed in my house. But I have reusable cups in my car all the time. So I just take one, take it in with me, fill it up, and off we go. I like Tervis tumblers because they're double insulated, but the best thing about them is they're lifetime guaranteed. So if they get scratched or they break apart or whatever, you just ship them back to them, they recycle them and send you a new one. It's great, right? So I'm keeping that out of the trash. So that's a good thing for me, right? And so they're a little, more expensive than maybe some things that you can get, but I have honestly Tervis tumblers that I've probably had since Tervis tumblers started, because I really like them, and they have a lid. I don't use straws at all. I don't use the metal straws, because I don't care what you tell me. I don't think you can get them as clean as they need to be. And I don't like plastic straws because they end up in the ocean and what they do to turtles. It's kind of strange, and I also have a dog, and she would just chew them, and she'd have to go to the hospital, and it'd just be a mess. So I don't use straws at my house at all. So I just pop the lid on my Tervis tumbler and off I go. So you have to think about it. If you're going to the grocery store, you got to make sure that your bags are in there. Well, the best way to do that is to make sure that the last time you went, you put them back in your car, and then you know where they're always at. So I gained weight and had to buy all new pants. So I called a friend of mine who lost a bunch of weight, and we traded some things, and so all my jeans are now reused. I haven't bought a new pair of jeans in 10 years. The only thing I haven't done reuse is shoes, because I'm kind of funny about my feet. And so, but there are a lot of brands out there that have recycled material that they're putting into their shoes now. So it takes me a long time to find a pair of tennis shoes, but when I find them, then I've got them for a really long time. Dress shoes, I have a pair of heels that I just keep taking to the poor shoe guy, and he said last time, I think we might be on our last round. And so I just took them again, and I said, can we just one more time? I've had them for about 30 years. So, you know, there's lots of things if you just put a little bit of thought into it that you can actually do. Glasses. Everybody's prescription changes. I got really lucky. So my close vision got really bad, and then something happened. The eye doctor said I got older, and it got better, which is weird, but I'll take it. So I took them all and dropped them off so that they would be reused, because I had this thing, and they don't today because I picked up the wrong pair, but I had this thing I wanted to match my clothes. I know, it's weird, but then I had a lot to give away, right? So, you know, it's not just about recycling. There's as much about reducing and reusing as there is about recycling. So, let's talk about where the commodity markets are, then I'll tell you why I'd rather you reuse and reduce. So in January of this year, OCC, which is cardboard, they were paying us $187.47 a ton. Today, they're paying us $85, and it has to be very clean. It can't have any paper in it or have any grease or anything like that. So when you think about that and what we charge at the curb, we're not really making any money on recycling, or even probably breaking even on recycling today. It'll come back up and it'll go back down, and so we have to look at it over the life of it. So everybody in this room probably remembers when it was free to recycle. Well, now it's actually costs more for your recycling to get processed and go to the right places than it does for us to bury it. So my background is really landfills, and so I used to joke with everybody. They don't think it's funny at work anymore when I say, well, it's cheaper to bury it. And because we're losing life on our landfills, and when that happens, we're gonna have to go further and further out, right? So let's talk about mixed paper. In January, $88.40 a ton. Today, $5 a ton. Takes a lot of pieces of paper to get a ton, right? So when you look at it the way that we kind of look at it, and what we want it, what we want it to come out to be, then it's really important. This is a good one. Aluminum, $1,900 a ton in January, and it's down to $1,200. That's a pretty big, that's a pretty big dip, right? So in just the OCC, we've seen a 55% decrease in 10 months. That's crazy. But that goes with our economy too. So, and you'll notice that their groceries are going up. The cost of processing has gone up for us. Landfill costs have gone up for us. And then when you're gonna get the money back, then that goes down. So the economy hits everywhere, right? But there really and truly is not as many people buying bottled water probably today as there was 6 months ago, because even that's gone up. So where you used to could go to Sam's and get, 36 or 48 of them for, $3, now it's what, $6, $7. So, when you're looking at it from that standpoint, that kind of makes the difference. So while China shut the doors and forever changed the recycled markets, there's still a lot of benefit to recycling. Obviously, we're keeping it out of the landfill. The landfill space around us, most of the landfills around us have less than 30 years. And so that's your kids or your grandkids, right, that are gonna have to be worried about what's gonna happen to them. Fortunately, Republic Services owns a landfill down in Itasca, and we have 142 years on that landfill. So what you'll see around here is a lot of transfer stations. So you won't see the big mountains of, well, you're always gonna see them because they're always gonna be there until 30 years goes down the road and they can be made into a park or, something else. But some of the mountains will, so we do take the methane gas out of the landfills, and we've got gas to energy projects at all of our landfills. In San Antonio, we have a solar gas to energy project that is just phenomenal. I'd like to see that everywhere, but you have to have flat land, and it has to be, the sun has to be able to see it. And so we're very particular on where we put those. So one of the, we talked about my sweater. And so Republic Services, we have a company store that our employees can buy off of, and they're really gearing everything to sustainability. And so they're making a lot more products. So I got my koozies in today that are made out of plastic bottles. And I mean, it's just like a regular koozie. It's just, it's pretty cool, because I'm expecting it to be hard or flimsy, or, because you start thinking about that. I got a blanket as a gift for doing something, and it was so soft, it was like my sweater, and it was like, wow, that's really cool. And then I have other blankets at my house that are made from virgin material, and they're not as soft. So I just bought some sheets, and they're made from all recycled material, and they're softer than my 12,000 count sheets that, I paid a small fortune for, and they were $49.99 for King's sheets. So there are going to be more and more things. So they're out there. I purchased a binder that looks like this one. And it's actually made from recycled leather, recycled paper, and plastic. So I thought that was really cool. This one is actually recycled leather, which I thought was kind of strange, but I like that. So I know that we're going in the right direction. So we talked a little bit about plastics and what happens with them. So there are a lot of challenges around plastic recycling because of the lifespan and the process that they have to go through. There's 14 million tons of plastic packaging generated in America today, and only 2% of it is recovered for circulatory. This is something that Republic Services has been working on for a number of years, and we are actually going to open our first ever plastic circulatory polymer center in Las Vegas next year. And a lot of the plastics from our material recovery facilities will be going there, and it will increase the lifespan of that material, the way that it's processed, and it will get more and more plastics that will go into the recycle stream. We actually do have a patent on the way that it's going to be done. So this is for us. And so one of the things that we will really and truly be talking about and pushing, of course, is our recycling education. So we believe if you understand the challenges and all the things that go into it, then the better educated you are, the better you'll want to recycle. So that's kind of the way that it goes. They will be opening another center a year later. And this is actually going to be filling the gap between the supply chain and how it's being processed down. So we're hoping to get the one in Texas opened in 2024. So they're looking at Houston and they're looking at Dallas. And of course I vote Dallas because the facility I work at has a MRF, and so I want it to be closer to us. And we do not actually own a MRF in Houston. So, Dallas is the obvious choice. So we're looking at that. So one of the reasons that we believe this makes us a good partner with our municipalities is the climate action goals. So it's our innovation and our commitment to these centers tells you that we're in this for the long haul. Environmental peace of mind, knowing that more and more of the plastics are gonna be done, and then the affordability by moving to higher cost quality checks from the MRFs, then we'll be able to process and sell more of the material, keeping it out of the landfill. And then, of course, it makes us a market leader. I'm supposed to throw that in. I get paid extra for that. Let's talk about batteries and electronics just a little bit. How many of you know that there's an electronics recycling at 501 across the street by the, okay. So if you don't know, they're actually now taking appliances like refrigerators and freezers, and we're recycling those now because we can't put them in the landfill unless it's been certified that the freon's been removed. And so that was kind of a gap for Grapevine, and so they've added that. How many of you know that as you get a new phone or iPad or computer, that needs to be recycled and not go into the trash? Okay. I know that probably seems really obvious, but there's a lot of people that don't realize that they can do that because they're afraid their information is going to get out there, especially on phones and stuff like that. But I can tell you that there's less likelihood of that after you wipe it clean than there is, and it'll go to the right place. So the more electronics that you recycle. How many of you know that household AA and AAA and C and D batteries can actually go into the landfill now? So, because they've become less and less with the alkaline in them, so you can actually put those in your regular household trash now instead of having to worry about the alkaline going into the landfill. There's less and less being used with that. The ones that you have to watch out for are obviously the rechargeable batteries, car batteries, that are not typical household batteries. Those are the ones that you definitely want to continue to recycle. How many of you know that the city of Grapevine is having a recycle event on Saturday? I just know that because it's Saturday and it starts at 8, and that means I have to get up about 6:30 to be here in time to be set up. So that's how I remember. Obviously, we're coming into the holidays where there's a lot of electronics that are purchased. So we definitely want to make sure that we get that education out there. But cell phones, there's a lot of police departments that will take cell phones and have them redone so that they can use them for other things. And then, so there is that. How many of you, if you crack your screen, you just go get a new cell phone? That's why I like this group. See, we're on the same page. I'm on screen number 6, and I've only had this phone a year. Wow. And my last phone was so outdated that they finally said to me, the updates are not going to work on this phone anymore. And on that one, I actually had 12 screens replaced. I'd rather spend the money to get the screen fixed than replace the phone. And now they sign you up for, millions and millions of contracts forever. So, I know this group always has a lot of really great questions. So that's really about all that I have. So, I'll open it up to all of your wonderful questions. I knew it!
I want to give kudos to Republic Services. My sanitation guys are the absolute best.
Well, thank you.
And I've had one who's been with Republic 19 years. And that man shows up at my house twice a week. He has a smile from ear to ear.
Yeah.
Your company is the best.
Well, I certainly appreciate that and will share
I've
that.
even called his supervisor to tell him how good he is.
So, you know, I always like to hear good things about our crews because they work a lot harder than I do. I'm gonna be honest with you. I might work more hours a week than they do, but at least I can sit in my house where it's not raining on me and it's not cold and all of that. So I love that, and I certainly will share that. I think one of the things that makes our partnership so good with the city of Grapevine is that we have a longevity of drivers that have been in Grapevine forever, and there's a team of brothers that have actually been in Grapevine for over 20 years. And as I'm starting to get nervous because they're all over retirement age, but they're actually training people to take over their routes, to run their routes their way. And I love that because it keeps, you know, it keeps our partnership smooth. So I do appreciate that.
Something else that the Republic did that really impressed me, and I wrote a letter to your CEO, is that we had a Grapevine sanitation worker that was killed this year. And the whole shop was closed down so they could go to his funeral, and that was beautiful.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to share that. You know, most of the time I get a lot of complaints, but I take those compliments very seriously and share that. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of go on to what she said. I'm in the garden club, which many people here are from. And I was talking to another member who's in another city, and she said, oh, when we put our brush out, we have to do this, and we have to do that, and we have to do that. And I said, well, we're really supposed to tie ours up, but they take it anyway. And sometimes they bring out the claw, you know, and so it makes it a lot easier on us. They do a great job.
So I will tell you this, there is a change to come in Grapevine over the next couple of years. But the one thing that your council stayed very firm on is that Wednesday brush day was not going to go away. But you will begin to see cards for your trash coming. Don't hate me, but I will tell you, once you get used to them, you're gonna love them. Because I live in a city that thought a few years ago that they would go back to take all and get rid of the cards. And I've never seen that many residents in a council meeting over a trash cart in my life. We did not want to lose our cards. Because the arm can lift a whole lot more than my guys on the back of the truck. But I don't know about you, but there's an employee shortage going on, and we're just not getting a lot of people that want to ride on the back of a truck anymore. So we're definitely going to keep the brush and the bulk on Wednesday like we've always done it here, and you guys will still be twice a week on your normal days. The only difference is on your trash days it'll be cart contact. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think you're gonna love it when we get there. And the cards are made from recycled plastic.
So they can be
isn't
similar
that
to
good
the,
to know?
similar to the recycle?
Well, you would be amazed at the number of people that this is the way we've always done it, and so I get that. But if they only knew how many down routes we have every day because we don't have a helper on the back of the truck, and what a struggle it is for my team, they would understand it better. But you know,
Are the carts really big or heavy, or why?
it's a little bit. The footprint is the same size as your recycle cart, but it's wider and a little taller. But you can get about 12 kitchen trash bags in it. So if you have that much trash, we really need to talk about recycling. Right? So, but you know, we just signed a new contract, and that's part of the contract, but we're waiting till we get the trucks in, and we'll be doing a lot of education over the next couple of years. So it is coming soon city near you. Yes, ma'am.
Go over again which numbers on plastics can go into the recycle.
Do what?
The number on the bottom in the triangle, all of them?
Plastic.
No.
The plastic
So, 1 through 5 and 7
are good?
are good.
Okay.
6 is basically styrofoam. And what happens with the styrofoam cup, when it goes across and goes through the machinery, or it goes into the truck, the minute we hit it, it goes, and then it's not there. It would take us forever to get enough tonnage to put that in a bale. And but we do not take styrofoam. Now, you may have noticed, if you bought a case of bottled water recently, it tells you that the water bottles are recyclable, but the plastic around it is not. And you're gonna start seeing that on more and more things. So like freezer items, where it has a cover and there's a dish inside of it, it'll tell you the dish is not, because it's got remnants of food, but the outside carton is. So that is something that a lot of the manufacturers have done to recycle. Yes, ma'am.
What about the plastic coverings on things in the grocery store, like produce and the Target recycle?
Produce?
Like the cleanse? Like, well, like, you have.
Around the
tomatoes
toilet
and-
paper and around paper
Yeah,
towel.
yeah.
Trash.
That's
You can
trash.
take
Really?
those to Target.
Now,
Tom thumb.
I will say, there are a few surrounding cities that are actually collecting that for park benches. And it's called Bags to Benches. And so, in Flower Mound, I have my kids live in Roanoke, but it's really Fort Worth. And so they bring all their bags to me, and then I take them to the library and drop them off, and then they get turned into the benches. So we're gonna probably see more and more programs that are coming along like that. But when these polymer centers come online, probably we will go back to accepting those plastic bags, because then we have an outlet for it. The problem is today, we don't have an outlet for it. So I still have, when we did accept them, I still have some of those we call them sausages, because they go in a bag and they look like a big sausage, and then they go like that. So we still have some of those in storage, but those will be some of the things that will actually, we'll be able to take again, once we get these centers opened, and then there will be more of a market for it. The problem is today, there's not a market. And especially because they have Pope.
And Walmart all take plastic bags though, you have to, they have one done.
Target too, but
Target.
the wrap around the toilet paper and
All the
the paper
plastic.
towel, that's
Yeah.
what they say they take it inside and shove it in the bin.
And
But how much of that's really being recycled, it's a very small percentage, I promise.
A while back, they had an audit, a recycling audit, and I joined it. And they went in neighborhoods and looked through the recycling bins and made some notes on the form. Is that helpful?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you the other thing that it did. So I am happy to share that the average recycle contamination rate at our MRF is 25%. The city of Grapevine's last audit was less than 17. So yes, anytime that we can educate, we always see an improvement.
So at the time, we were told that cardboard boxes needed to be broken down. That was on the list. How is the thinking now?
Same thing. So, if a cardboard box is open and it's got like packing material and stuff in it, my guys will not go through that to make sure everything in there is recycled, so it ends up at the landfill. So what you need to do is make sure that your cardboard is folded flat. And any packing material, like say it's paper packing material, you can put that in a paper sack and we'll take it, cause that they know. But I don't like them to go through boxes, and then what happens is we end up with a bunch of TV boxes and stuff like that that's got styrofoam in it, and then we've got a real big mess.
We've always broken down our boxes, but I know we got a notice, I don't know if it came in the mail or left on the door or something. It's like within the last few months saying that you no longer needed to break down cardboard boxes, you could just throw the whole box in the recycle bin.
If it's in your recycle bin, yes. If it's outside of your recycle bin, it has to be broken down.
Oh,
But I'm one of those, I don't cut all the tape and all that and do all that. I just throw the whole box in my recycle bin. If it's in your recycle bin, that's okay. If it's outside of the recycle container and it's got stuff in it, it will go to the landfill.
okay.
Cause I do not like for my guys to be, the judge. Yes, ma'am.
And what does MRF stand for?
Material Recovery Facility. And it's just a lot for me to say over and over. Yes, sir.
What's the best way to recycle shredded paper so it doesn't explode all over your facility?
Shredded paper in a paper bag.
Just put it in a paper bag and seal the top?
All you have to do is fold it over and put it in a recycle bin.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it in the garbage bag.
No. So, I will tell you what I did for my mom, because she was shredding her junk mail. And that was really getting on my nerves, because her address was on the outside of it. And so I had to explain to her that they already knew her address, or she wouldn't have gotten that piece of junk mail, right? And so, she's a little funny about people knowing her identity. I don't get it, but, so I got her one of those, pins that it's advertised on TV actually, and you go like that, and it hides it. And so I don't have to go over there and get all of her shredded paper anymore. It's awesome, because we really want paper whole, because it's easier to bale it than if it's whole paper than if it's shredded paper. And it takes a long time to make a ton to put it in a bale if it's shredded. Now, personal documents, we want you that have account numbers on it. But if it's who to vote for, cause my Atlanta, those people wanna get elected something terrible.
Yeah.
I've had 7 postcards from the same guy, and I finally called him and said, Ben, I'm voting for you, stop mailing this. It's going in the recycle bin.
There's a styrofoam facility that takes recycled styrofoam in Keller on Peyton North.
Yep.
Right there on 1709.
Yeah, there is, but they have gotten they've gotten a little bit overloaded, and so sometimes they'll take it and sometimes they won't.
Well, they have dumpsters right out there as you walk in the door, and they just have it there open 24/7. One other question. Saran wrap, because I try to get away from plastic bags. Is saran wrap really nasty too?
On wrapping,
Just trying to, rather than keeping from using plastic bags, I use saran wrap. Is it very environmentally unfriendly too?
okay, that didn't register.
It doesn't break down.
I'm trying to come up with an answer, but the question didn't register with me.
Is it recyclable?
Saran wrap.
Saran wrap.
The which,
Sticky wrap, you know,
Saran wrap.
Plastic.
Cling wrap.
cling wrap.
no,
Cling wrap.
that's the
I know
same
it's
as a.
not recyclable, but is it incredibly environmentally unfriendly?
No. So, you may, has anybody in here gotten a new recycle cart lately? You may have, okay, so if your old carts, you know, dinged up or whatever, call Republic, tell them you want a new one. The updated sticker on there is so simple. I mean, it doesn't have all the graphics on there of what you can't and every kind of cereal box and all of that. It just, it basically, it's, you know, very simple. Plastic, paper, cardboard,
Recycle bin.
and aluminum. And we kind of did that to kind of simplify it, because there was always that question of, so inside the cereal box, there's a thing that has a cereal in it.
Yeah.
So is that recyclable? No, because it has a food film on it, and so you could never get that clean. It's like frozen food. There's a film left on those bags, so you could never get that clean, right? So, cardboard box that's frozen food is recyclable.
Even if it's got like
Because
a
it
waxy.
Waxy's
those are
okay.
recyclable.
I'm a almond milk person. I do a shake with it every morning, and somebody had said to me at our MRF, we don't take wax cartons, and so I just happened to have one, and so I took it up there and I said, why don't you take this? And that wasn't what they meant. There is a wax carton that you can take your thumbnail and peel the wax off of. Those are not, but they would go in a mixed load, and so it would probably still get recycled.
Can you
So-
review caps and tops? Like on a cap from a glass jar, a metal cap on a glass jar, and the caps on plastic water bottles?
So here's the good news. So the metal on a glass jar, when we get through with that jar, the lid comes off anyway, because we take the glass back down to sand film, and so all those metal lids get recycled with the metal.
So we should leave them on the jar?
Leave them on.
Okay.
And then water bottles, leave the cap on. Anything smaller than a credit card's gonna jam up the machine. So anything that has a lid, you know, that's smaller than a credit card, leave that on there.
And how about plastic pill bottles?
Plastic what?
Like vitamin bottles, plastic vitamin bottles.
Okay, not all vitamin bottles are actually recyclable. It depends upon the plastic. So you have to look at the bottom to see if it has a recycle logo with a number 1 to 5 and 7. And I just learned this. Medicine bottles, my mom also thinks that those are recyclable if she takes the label off. Guess what? They're not.
The little yellowy golden amber.
They're not recyclable.
Because.
Now, isn't that amazing, the number of drugs that come in those, and nobody's come up with one that can be recycled?
Why can't they? They have like a number 2 on the bottom.
Some of them do, but not all of them.
If they do, can you recycle?
If it has a number on
They
it,
usually have a
you can
number.
recycle it, but just the regular brown, those are not recyclable.
Oh, the hard ones that have.
Yeah, cause
Oh, from the grocery store.
you can't do anything with them, there's no market for those either. It's like a hard plastic toy. Hang on 1 second, let me.
So on rainy days, when they're picking up the recycling, does that stuff get wet as it's being dumped in the truck? And if so, is it all just a waste or what?
When we pick up your recycling and it gets wet because it's raining, that's not enough wet to make it not be able to be recycled. What makes cardboard boxes outside of the recycling is it sits out in the rain and it breaks down the fibers. But just that few minutes that it goes there and then goes there, it's not enough to break down the fibers. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wanna make sure I understand the lid thing. So like you have a glass spaghetti jar and it's got a metal lid. Are you saying to screw the metal lid back on after you wash it instead of putting it in the trash and the recycling?
If the lid is bigger than a credit card, you can leave it off. If it's a smaller than a credit card, then leave it on the glass jar.
Okay.
And the reason for that is it gets jammed up in the machinery. That's why it's smaller than a credit card. Anything smaller than a credit card should not be put in your recycle bin unless it's attached to something else.
Milk jug, lid, we usually put it down in the jug. Should we have?
The lid,
Uh-huh,
no, just rinse it out,
yeah,
let it dry, put it back on.
okay.
I've heard that clamshell containers, like you get it maybe a bakery or something, that those aren't recyclable, is that true?
clam.
Like,
They're
you buy goods at a
plastic
bakery and it's got a clear
berries, they
top
have
and it,
strawberries or
it-
raspberries.
yeah,
or-
that kind of stuff, baked goods.
Oh, like you get at produce or,
Yeah, it's plastic top and has a
The
plastic lid on it.
clamshells are usually a number one,
some of them are,
but the
and some of them are
cookies
not. So it's, if it's got the recycle and it's got a 1 through 5, you're good. But sometimes you'll see a recycle emblem on there and it doesn't have a number. That means it can't go in the recycling. Because only part of it's recycled, and you gotta figure out which part it is. And that's when you get into that, know what to throw, or that's when you get into, and believe me, I work for the company and I've been in this industry since 1987, and even I will find myself going, you know, and you would think, but, and the more new stuff that comes out, and I am that person that took the Amazon envelopes and tore them open so I could see what was in there to make sure. Kind of weird, but I did. Yes, ma'am.
So there are some milk products, or even, almond milk or regular milk that have, it's a plastic bottle, but then it has like a plastic wrap on it that you can cut off.
I think you have to.
You have to
You
cut
can cut those off, but
Okay.
it's not a requirement because it all gets broken down into virgin material
So if
anyway.
it's okay,
So
with
it
the
is
logo,
yeah.
the whole thing can go. in.
Yes, ma'am.
Cause
Yes,
some of
ma'am.
them say on there that you have to take that recyclable, something, I don't know how the verbiage, but indicating you have to cut that off.
Well, there was a time that we asked for you to cut the paper off. Okay, if you are that ends up going into a mixed load, okay? So if you're just a person that absolutely wants to separate the paper off of the tomato paste and do that, that's great. But I would rather you, instead of not recycling that because you didn't want to take the time, I'd rather you recycle it and leave it on there. But if you're, now me, I'm noticing that all the vegetables I buy don't even have that on there anymore. But then I buy a lot of fresh vegetables. But so a lot of containers don't have a wrap on them anymore. But if you want to take the wrap off, then that goes into a paper load and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's like on the outside of like a Lysol spray bottle or my Nestle's creamer, that thing, it'll say on there that you can't recycle the wrap and you're supposed to cut that off, and if you slice it, it
We
just falls
recycle.
right off.
The container's getting recycled. The whole container's getting recycled. But again, I got a lot of people who are not that into recycling, so they're not gonna take the time to do all that. I'd rather empty, clean, and dry and throw the whole thing in the recycle than take the time to cut that off and not rinse it out and let it dry. You know what I'm saying? So it's kinda like with your kids, you kinda gotta pick your battles. That's kinda me. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, everybody would, it would be empty, clean, and dry, and they'd cut all the labels off, and that would be a perfect world. But there's just some people that just aren't gonna do that. So we would rather get the material like that than not get the material. It's kind of the way we look at it.
So a gallon, plastic gallon jug, like water comes in, spring water or something, you buy in the grocery store, a gallon jug, and it has a small plastic top on it.
Leave it on,
Leave it on.
because
leave
it's
the
smaller
top
than a
on.
credit card.
Okay, all right, but the jugs are recyclable,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah, they're getting recycled. Okay, let me get her real quick.
The top of a can, that you use a can opener and take the top off, you want the top, rinse it. Yes,
It's okay.
as long as it's
Now-
clean and dry.
If you have a can opener that goes to the inside, you can just drop it into the thing. If you have a can opener that goes around the outer edges and you lift off the whole thing, you don't have to cram it back in the container. You can, because that's bigger than a credit card, and so it could go back into the container. Doesn't have to go back into the container. Ooh, can we have a redo? So,
And you, clean and dry, if you got a drink can, and sometimes I'll rinse them out. If it had beer, and I didn't wanna have the
Waste the beer.
smell there. But no, when you say dry, do you want the cans off?
okay, I'm gonna be really honest with you, okay? I drink out of glass bottles in my house, for an adult beverage, okay? When I get through with that, I rinse it out, and I go like that, and it goes in the recycle bin,
It
okay?
dries out in your.
I don't line up all my beer bottles across my
With
neighbor's
hair
yard. So everybody knows, no, but we're not asking you to dry everything out and, use a paper towel and then put that in the trash. That's not what we're looking for. But what we are asking for, if you have more than a cap full of liquid in there, then you're contaminating the load. So, if you drink, rinse something out and you shake it and then you put it, that's what we mean. But, we're not asking you to go get the blow dryer and blow all we're not asking you to do that. Or turn everything upside down on your cabinet so it can dry. We're not asking you to do that. But we don't want you, my son dips and it's so nasty because then he'll use a can. Well, don't put that in my recycle bin. I'm not gonna rinse that out for you, so take it to your house type of thing. But we don't want the last drink of something to be in there and you toss it in your recycling and then you've got cardboard or paper in there and then you made everything in there wet and it won't dry because it's, you know what I'm saying? So that's the reason for the empty, clean, and dry.
She asked my question.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Great.
Cans.
Why can we not, our communities, our society get more on board with taking our own bags and getting grocery stores and department stores? I have friends and I scold them for using plastic bags and they said, well, I recycle them. That's not the point. It uses polyurethane, to make plastic bag, there's your gas, it comes from petroleum.
So I will tell you that until there is some legislation in Texas about recycling, we're going to have to do the best that we can do with our education. So the department store hangers, and when you buy something and they say to you, do you want the hanger? I'm that fool that takes the hanger because they're not recyclable and I know they're gonna trash them. So my whole closet looks like, a department store. But I am that person. And for some people, they just think about the items that they use in their kitchen or drinks or, that kind of stuff. There's a couple of restaurants, like Chicken Express. Now, I'm not promoting Chicken Express, okay? Although I do eat there. But there are cardboard boxes. If you dump all the food out, those are recyclable. It's kind of like a pizza box,
So pizza boxes are good, recyclable?
Mm-hmm. Now, the little containers, they're styrofoam, those are not. So sometimes there's just a lot of thought that kind of has to go into it. But the biggest thing for me is the reduce and reuse. Because like grocery bags, and I do have to get them occasionally, they're my dog poop bags. You know why? Because they've got dog poop in them and we're not gonna recycle them anyway, right? And that just keeps me from having to buy dog poop bags because I have a big dog and so that's when you have to really start thinking about it. 2 liter water, 2 liter Coke bottles. A lot of Boy Scout troops and Girl Scout troops are begging for stuff like that. A lot of the high school art people are begging for, magazines and, stuff like that. So, you're gonna see a lot coming out, from the city of Grapevine about wrapping paper and what can be, you know. The best thing to do, just quit buying everybody in your family stuff. No, I'm kidding. That's my thing. No. So, but there are, I honestly, my grandmother has been gone for 8.5 years. And she gave me a gift bag every year. Somehow or another, she always gave me the same size gift, because it always went in this. And she wrote on it. My name is on it, her name is on it, and nobody's ever gonna get that gift bag, but it's not leaving my house because it means something to me. And my kids know, and my grandkids have learned, on Christmas, if it's in a bag, give me the bag back. It's not yours. We're gonna use it. You know what I mean? And so sometimes it's that. And when you're buying wrapping paper, don't buy the full kind, buy the paper kind. You know, or buy the bags that are made out of just no foil or any decorations on them or anything like that. And so for the average person, it's sometimes they don't really go into that depth. And remember, I started this with my background is landfills, and it is cheaper to bury it. But then where are my grandkids gonna put their trash, right? And so while we have come a long way in the landfill industry, taking methane gas off of the landfills and the leachate and doing all of the things, because it is, I mean, they are sanitary landfills with pretty stout permits on what we can take and what you can do and all of that. So, but we really and truly, without legislation, we have to become better educated recyclers. I mean, that's what it comes down to, and what you can, you know, redo. Like my mom, she loves to carry a different purse all the time. When she gets tired of hers, she comes over to my closet. Then I have to go back over there in 6 months or 9 months and get my purses back. But I mean, there's a lot of those things out there that it'll make people think. So I know Cindy's shut me up because we ran over, but I think we always run over on this one. But it's an important thing, and I hope that you learned something new tonight. And if you didn't, I'll try to do better next time if Cindy ever invites me back again. But I mean, I love that you guys are interested, and I know you'll tell your neighbors and they'll tell their neighbors, and that's how we get it out there. The schools kind of, with COVID, they've kind of kept us from coming in, so we're not getting to do our normal spiel. Remember the website, recyclingsimplified.com, and there's games on there, and there's tips on there, and there's educational stuff for preschool through 12th grade. I actually took a quiz on there and missed 2 questions this morning. I thought, you know, but it was a couple of things I was on the fence about. Now I know the answer. But there's things on there. So I would just ask that you go out, spread the word. Cindy always knows how to get a hold of me, but it's Jeri Harwell at republicservices.com. Feel free to email me. If you've got a HOA that's interested in learning more and they want somebody to come out, you know, reach out to me. I mean, let's spread the word in Grapevine. Thank you very much.